Welcome to another Draw Process. I'm Ike. This is where I draw my comic book, which I make available a new page every week on the webcomic as well as here in the series. And I share my thoughts each week. And hopefully you learn some things technique-wise. These are my thumbnails, the roughs, and we have this lizard man, and he has now fallen to the dock, to his knees. And I decided to draw just what I saw there. And that edge of the dock inspired me with a hunch, a feeling about something I could do with the panel shapes rather than a simple rectangle shapes. I'm going to make this one the shape of that dock, that V, as the dock in perspective is coming towards us. And that's going to inform the entire page, and it's going to be done, you'll see, in a rather organic way. This is not about measuring, getting things perfect, but I am being intentional with the relationship between things where it feels right to me. Of course, when I play with panel border shapes, it is intentional, and I am careful about left to right reading. So the angle of the dock as well as the panel border is coming down and to the left, bringing you down and to the left to this panel, which will lead right into Sun's arm grabbing Sword's hand to pull him up out of the water. There's a flow. There's the direction of things going from one to another a little better. And yeah, that's always intentional. You'll notice that sometimes when I draw, I'm going really loose and I'm capturing the important thing first. I knew I wanted their hands to be holding and about that size and about that location. The size and location of the hands was the important thing. And then I know that I need Sword's head in the shot, so I put his head where I need it to be. And then I work with the foreshortening. I work with the perspective. So where would his elbow have to be located, his shoulder? Where would you see the different muscles? And how large would his head look in comparison? That is, matter of fact, the size of his head, I'm kind of deciding ahead of time based on where I need it to go in the panel. So in a sense, I'm playing with perspective, with perhaps, if this was a camera, a wide angle lens, something that it will expand or compress the distance, the apparent size, comparison, and difference between things based in depth. So the position of certain things matters first. I did it here as well. There's a certain place I need his hand. I'm going to find a way to make fair a fit in the space that's left. I intentionally had his hands coming off the panel to the right, trying not to have it go up into the panel above it. I don't want your eye to follow those arms down into this panel. I want you to go to the left first. And that gets us about halfway through the page. And I've got a lot of decisions to make here in these roughs of what shapes to use in this bottom half that partner well with the top. But I do want a sense of a break, a separation between that top part and this part, because that top part is clearly a grouping of sorts. This one below is a variation on a theme. It's not symmetrically following the exact, or like a mirror image. It's not following the theme exactly. It has to be a variation on it. Again, like I said, organic. This panel on the top left here of this section, we've got this, the sword is cutting the rope to free the boat so they can get away. And I wanted that to be kind of like a pop-out panel. I just wanted you to see that action, and I wanted it to be a little loud and clear. And then this panel I'm being a little tricky here because this panel is below that panel. And the reading direction should go left to right first and then down. So having that panel and then going down and to the right is a little bit dangerous. So I'm intentionally putting a word balloon here very close to that first panel, and I'm making sure that this panel has a greater width, that it's going beyond the first panel. So I was hoping between that extra width that you see that sort of makes the first panel cut into the second one, as well as the word balloon coming close to that first panel there, that your eye would have no problem coming down first, and then even the angle and some of the composition of that second panel here and the angle of the panel border on the right of it leads you to this next one top right, so that you can go down and then back up to the right. So I'm being sneaky. I'm finding a way to go down and not just to the right first. Not only down, but then back up. And it's not horribly risky decisions here. The story is very clear, very readable. There's no word balloons, like at least in those last two panels. There's no actions that are so important to be read in order. So it's easy, clear. It makes it less risky to take those chances. Really, this whole page. If this was a really dynamic fight scene, I probably would not take such liberties with the panel shapes. I wouldn't be this creative with it, because I want it to feel grounded. When it's a fight scene, I want you to feel their feet on the ground and see the space they're in and easily, read from one to the next panel. But this is a pretty static, set of moments here on this page. And I've got a clear idea to each panel. I usually talk about this being like a movie playing in my head, and I find certain moments that I want to show, but I should highlight, maybe I don't highlight it enough, there is a clear impact and choice of each panel. And it's very direct. This hack kind of like coughing of the lizard man in the top left panel, that is very symbolic, archetypal kind of pose here of him coughing. It's very obvious. Him slouched down here, very clear, very easy to read. The hands, Sun grabbing Sword's hand and then grabbing Farah's. It doesn't get more clear than to say this is about grabbing hands. As I do and I have done other times, I compare it to even spoken or written word. Is this written? Is it really impactful, really clear that it's just like, and he grabs his hand, or is it this long paragraph that meanders and buries the important piece in it, or doesn't make a choice about what's important, and a long description that sort of leaves it so objective, leaves so much room for your subjective viewing of it that it's not containing a perspective. We need to voice. We need to have a perspective and a voice. It makes it's more fun, and it makes it easier to read. And you're doing it whether you like it or not, so you might as well do it intentionally. So in these panels, the hands being so prominent means that the drawing of the hands needs to be decent. Sometimes I can get away with poorly drawn hands. It's not as easy to do so when they're so prominent, when they're the main thing. I still didn't use reference. I just might have erased and done a little more construction and was a little more careful with it. Also, because we only have small pieces of anatomy that we can see of Sun, of their foreshortened arms and shoulders, it becomes more important that those little pieces of info I've given are communicating meaning, communicating what something is. So the certain muscles that are coming up, the elbow point, the angle of the elbow, those things become important to convey some, character, expression, meaning. And that makes me think of something about, just talking in general here. When we draw, the way I see it, the way I like to think of it, and that I try to do, is that I am drawing something that's actually happening. Like, I'm not trying to draw a face accurately. I'm drawing this character's face in this moment, expressing something. And I'm trying to feel it in my body, what it feels like to express that. What is that expression? What is the feeling, the meaning, the experience of that expression? And I'm trying to convey it in the pencil strokes that I make. And there's a way in which that is about being honest, being very clear and honest, much like in my day job as a therapist, helping people not lie to themselves, which we all do. And it's a feature, not a bug of humanity, that we protect each other. We prioritize relationships. We protect ourselves by being kind, by misleading. Sometimes it's for good reason or to be inclusive or something, but we tend to get ourselves in trouble because we are not being honest with ourselves. We don't know what our experience is to us. We develop all kinds of strategies to avoid and obfuscate things, and we don't even know that we're doing it or why, and it can become really problematic at a certain level or point. And then we might need help to get clear again. But this all relates to drawing. This all relates to life in general, like relationships, communicating, your own mind, but your drawing and your art too. Because these lines I'm laying down are like speech acts. They're acts that are like speech. Am I, with my lines, trying to honestly convey my experience? Or am I obfuscating, falsifying, mimicking? Am I trying to say what I think other people would want to hear, or what one should sound like? Or maybe in any way that I'm under pressure, I'm under performance and falsifying? Or is it really conveying my experience? And it is all my experience, because the experience of Sun or Sword or any of these characters, I have to experience their experience in my body. When they're grabbing hands, when they're here, or they're making an expression, even the lizard man, when they're doing something, I am not just visualizing them do it, and I just magically draw on the page what I see as an image in my mind. I am feeling in my body what they're feeling. And that is where I'm communicating, I'm conveying more meaning. Because now that's a separate point, but we want to communicate truthfully. We want to get more clear in our communication, and truthful in the sense of it conveys our experience accurately, which means we're getting better, which means we are experiencing the lines we lay down. We're learning from what we're doing. We're seeing how it impacts us. How did that act? How did that thing I said make me feel? Was that off? Was that not quite what I meant to say? Or did I say something I'm surprised I said, and what does that mean? It's like that with the art. So it's this ever self-referential process in a good way, like the scientific method. You have an experience, you take an action, it affects you, so now you have a new experience, and you take action based on that. It allows for feedback and change. It's an evolutionary process that gets closer to the truth, or whatever your aim is. So there's that, getting more truthful. But there's also what I had said was there's also the idea I brought up of communicating more vividly or something, communicating more, and that has to do with clarity to a degree. With getting more clear means you're probably communicating more, or less, more impactfully. Let's not argue terms here, but that has to do with what am I experiencing, right? Like a child might draw arms, and the arms just go down into fingers. It looks like wings. They don't. You could argue their nervous system, their actual wiring in their brain, and is not so connected, is not so aware of these differences of joints and fingers and everything. And you get an older person, they're gonna be a little more accurate. They're gonna be able to capture some detail because they have a body. They know what their knuckle is. They know that exists. And so you getting a richer experience of your body, and of the object of your focus. If I'm trying to capture this lizard man hunched over here, it's not just how does his body feel, but when I move my attention, my spotlight onto his shoulder area, then how does that muscle feel? What is the character and meaning of that part? So I'm moving my spotlight to that, I'm feeling that, I'm conveying that, and that involves experience with that part in my body, and with that part in my drawing practice, and just being an observer in life. But let's not overstate that point, because it's kind of like what I was saying about truthful speech. Poets, right? Philosophers, we can very easily fall for our own lies, right? We believe the words we're saying, that they are somehow perfect and accurately representing that they are something important, that they do represent something accurately, and we forget, ourselves. We buy into our own bullshit. We drink our own Kool-Aid, and then I think the art suffers typically. So you do have to watch that you're not misleading yourself in that way. Your speech acts, your art, your lines, they are not they're not real things. Just like the words you're saying aren't real. These are acts. These are conveying of experience. That's not a bad thing. This is kind of a message against perfectionism in a way too. Because sometimes that perfectionism can fall into that, where it's about getting it right, and believing it's right when you've got it. So, of course I'm, right now, I'm perfect now, I'm better than this or that person. Comparing with others, that can fall into this category. That's some random thoughts I was having over the last few days about getting honest and clear with my lines, with my art, how I treat it as an experience that I'm conveying, like my own experience being conveyed, communicated, and that process of getting honest and clear with myself is the process of becoming better and better at it, and watching out for the pitfalls along the way where I can drink my own Kool-Aid. So that's what I was thinking, and I find that very useful, that analogy, that sort of way of thinking of it. So on I go. So I am probably drawing lately, if you include inking pages and penciling and any other sketching I'm doing. I'm probably drawing for 5 to 8 hours a week, and all the time I spend on making the videos, coloring, posting, anything like that. Not including the drawing, is probably 2 to 5 hours a week. It sounds like a lot, but I was thinking about it. I mean, it sounds like not very much. It doesn't take very much to put out a page every week. That's true. Like, to do what I'm doing doesn't take that much time. But it might sound like a lot because, if you had to suddenly take on a new task that was that many hours a week, good luck fitting that in your life, right? But I've made sacrifices. I've made choices by investing in this. It gets easier and it's more enjoyable, and I do this instead of other things. So I don't really watch TV. I don't watch movies. I don't play video games. I stay in more, which that suits me pretty well to be a homebody, so that works. So, I gave things up to get it, and there's been times when it isn't as fun, where it's more work, where it's challenging. Trying to piece together shots used to be a real grind. To put the panels together in perspective and figures, there's certain things that were always hard. The digital stuff I never enjoyed, like coloring, lettering, but that's not much time. That's not most of what I do. So I can fit that in my schedule. Most of what I do is this, and it's getting to the point that it's pretty easy to do. So it took some effort, but it gets easier. Like anything, if you were into a sport or something, it's hard. You gotta. It gets better though. It gets easier, and it becomes what you enjoy. Your life builds around it eventually, and it makes life worth living. I mean, it really does. That may sound kind of cliche, but we need disciplines. We need things we work on and towards that make it feel good to crack open the beer at the end of the night. I mean, not that I do that almost ever, but just metaphorically, to make things enjoyable. There's something to that. So, here with the inking, we've got the light source is mostly behind them. I'm kind of, you'll see that I've got this edge on her where the shadow starts, and I'm putting more black on her to make her heavier and pop off of sun, And this is a pretty crowded panel. I know that I penciled it in that fashion, and I stuck with my initial choice. But yes, her head is very close to his. His is very close to Kurok and the dock. And yes, I didn't want to redraw it. And it could have been changed a bit. But it's not awful. There's enough separation and clarity in these three things. And the last panel is nice and open. I know I used to struggle to draw people like so small, and I think part of it is this method of inking allows for line weight variation and expressive lines that they can kind of like, snap across the page or go from thick to thin a bit. But it's also just I've had more practice drawing comics that have a lot more variety of sizes of figures, because there's so much action, so many people involved, big scenes. I've got sometimes little people, and in my earlier comic work, I didn't hardly ever make people so small, but I'm getting very comfortable with that. That just made me think about, am I doing close-ups? How dramatic, how dynamic? What's the variation? Is there a real wide variation between how small you'll make things or how big? Because the panels are all different sizes, it's not like the size they are on the camera. That would imply you have just the TV screen, right? There's one size panel, and it's always the same size, so the size of the thing in the shot's different. So we are talking about the actual size in centimeters and inches of a face, an eyeball, a hand. Like, how big do things get? And I play with that. It's something I'm figuring out. I'm careful about just making something so big on the page because it gives it such prominence, such importance when you fill it with it. And it can be a little disjointed for pacing. If you were watching a film and there was one shot that just like stayed on the screen a really long time, especially if it's mostly still, then that's really awkward. It's like, what just happened? There was pacing, there was time moving, and then boom, it just kind of stops here, and it's like, did this break? It can feel that way with a comic page too. When something's so prominent, it breaks the pacing. Because in some sense, we give the impression of time, of pacing, of rhythm, with the tools at our disposal, which are different than actually having time at our disposal, as in film. And that's it for this week. Be the practice of your art, as I'm trying to do. Try being honest and clear, and seeing how that affects you. How you react to that. Adjust. Try again. Try that little scientific method, that little process. See you next week.